Single dad fixed woman's car on way to blind date, not knowing she was the date he dreaded. Before we continue, tell us where in the world you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. Sophia Laurent stood in front of her floor-to-ceiling windows staring at the city lights 20 stories below and seriously contemplated faking food poisoning to get out of this date because honestly, the last thing she needed right now was to sit across from some stranger making small talk while her entire company was 3 months away from completely falling apart. Her phone buzzed for the millionth time with another email from the investors, and she wanted to throw the damn thing out the window, except it cost $800 and she was about to be broke. So probably not the best financial decision. Her best friend Mia came bursting through the door without knocking, because that's just what Mia did. Took one look at Sophia's face and shook her head like a disappointed mother. "Oh no, you're not backing out. I can see it written all over your face." Sophia turned around in her designer dress that cost more than most people's rent and tried to look innocent. "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm totally going." Mia crossed her arms. "You've been married to that company for 2 years straight. You need this. You need to remember what it feels like to be a human being instead of a CEO robot." "My company is dying, Mia," Sophia said, and hearing the words out loud made them feel way too real. "The investors want an answer by January 15th. We need to expand or they're pulling every penny. And I've got 200 employees who are going to lose their jobs if I screw this up." Mia walked over and grabbed both of Sophia's shoulders. "Which is exactly why you need one night where you're not thinking about quarterly reports and market projections. One date. If he's awful, you never see him again. If he's great, maybe you get something good in your life for once." Across town in a cramped apartment above an auto repair shop that smelled like motor oil and Christmas cookies, Jake Morrison was having the exact same conversation, except his sister Emma was on FaceTime, and his 6-year-old daughter Lily was physically blocking the door. "Daddy, you promised Aunt Emma you'd go, and Morrisons don't break promises." Lily had her hands on her hips doing her best impression of a tiny drill sergeant, and Jake had to bite back a smile because she looked exactly like her mother used to when she was being stubborn about something. "I know I promised, Pumpkin, but this really isn't a good idea." Jake adjusted his tie for the 5th time, the only tie he owned because he literally never wore ties, and it felt like it was strangling him. Emma's voice came through the phone speaker. "Jake, you haven't been on a date in 4 years. Lily wants you to be happy, and I already told this woman you were coming, so you're going." Lily bounced up and down. "And I helped Aunt Emma pick her. She's really pretty and she likes fashion just like me." Jake's head snapped toward the phone. "Wait, you let a 6-year-old help pick my date?" Emma had the decency to look slightly guilty. "She saw the profile and said you'd like her. And honestly, Lily's got better instincts than you do." Jake sighed because arguing with both of them was like arguing with a brick wall, grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. "Fine, one date, but when this is a disaster, I'm blaming both of you." 20 minutes later, Sophia's car made a sound that no car should ever make, kind of like a dying cat mixed with a garbage disposal, and then just completely gave up on life right there on a dark road 3 miles from the cafe. She sat there in her heels and designer coat, watching snow start to fall, and thought about how this was clearly the universe telling her to go home, except her phone showed 7:05, and she was already late, and Mia would literally never let her hear the end of it if she bailed now. She called WPRBA and got the wonderful news that they had a 2-hour wait because apparently everyone's car decided to break down on Christmas Eve, texted Mia that this was a sign from God, and got back an all-caps message that said, "No, call an Uber. Don't you dare bail." Sophia was about to do exactly that when headlights appeared behind her and an older pickup truck pulled up. And her first thought was, this is how horror movies start. Woman alone on dark road. But then a guy got out and he looked normal enough, maybe mid-30s, nice face, and he was walking over with his hands visible like he was trying not to scare her. "Ma'am, you okay? Car trouble?" His voice was kind, a little rough around the edges, and Sophia felt herself relax just slightly. "Yes, it just died. Really worried away, says 2 hours." The guy nodded. "Mind if I take a look? I'm a mechanic. Might be able to help." Sophia blinked because what were the odds? and watched him pop her hood and lean in with a little flashlight from his keychain. And within about 30 seconds, he'd figured out what was wrong. Your alternator's shot, but I can patch it enough to get you where you're going. Where you headed? Evergreen Cafe on Maple Street, Sophia said, checking her watch. 7:10 now. So much for making a good first impression. The mechanic straightened up and laughed, and it was such a genuine sound it caught her off guard. No kidding, that's where I'm going too. Small world. Sophia felt something flutter in her chest but ignored it, because this was just a nice stranger helping her out, nothing more. And she definitely wasn't noticing that he had really nice hands, or that his smile made his whole face light up. He worked on her car while snow kept falling, and she watched him, and they talked about nothing important, just easy conversation that felt weirdly natural for two complete strangers on the side of the road. He mentioned he had a daughter. She mentioned she ran a company. Neither of them traded names because it didn't seem important in the moment. 15 minutes later, her car was running, and he was refusing payment and saying Merry Christmas like people actually did that anymore. And Sophia found herself wishing the car had taken just a little bit longer to fix. She followed his taillights to the cafe and pulled into the parking lot right behind him, and they both got out at the same time, and he held the door open for her like an actual gentleman. The cafe was warm and decorated for Christmas with lights and garland and a little tree in the corner, and the owner, Harper, came over with menus. Jake Morrison? The mechanic raised his hand. That's me, Harper smiled. Your date just arrived, Sophia Laurent. And Sophia heard her own name and looked up and saw the mechanic's face and watched him turn and see her, and they both just froze. You're Jake? Sophia's voice came out way higher than normal. You're Sophia? Jake sounded just as shocked. The blind date? They said it at the exact same time, and then both started laughing because this was absolutely insane. They just spent 20 minutes together on the side of the road, and neither of them had any clue they were about to meet each other. Anyway, Harper was grinning like she'd planned the whole thing. Well, looks like you two have already broken the ice. Your table's ready whenever you are. They sat down across from each other in a corner booth and just stared for a second before Sophia shook her head. So you didn't know it was me when you stopped? Jake ran his hand through his hair. My sister didn't show me a picture, just said her name's Sophia. Be nice. Now don't screw it up. Sophia laughed. Mia didn't show me anything either. Just said you were a good dad and I needed to give this a shot. The absurdity of it hit them both at once. How they'd been heading to the same place. How his help had literally saved their date. And Jake leaned back in the booth. So should we start over then? Sophia felt herself smile for the first time all week. A real smile that wasn't forced for investors or employees. Hi, I'm Sophia. My car broke down on the way to a blind date I didn't want to go on. Jake's grin matched hers. Hi, I'm Jake. I stopped to help a stranger, so I'd be late to a blind date I also didn't want to go on. Harper appeared with coffee pot. Can I get you two started? And Sophia and Jake both said coffee at the exact same time, looked at each other, and started laughing again. And maybe, just maybe, this night wasn't going to be a disaster after all. 2 hours disappeared like they were nothing, and Sophia couldn't remember the last time she'd sat somewhere without checking her phone every 5 minutes or thinking about work deadlines. But Jake had this way of making everything else just fade into the background. They talked about everything and nothing, the kind of conversation that flows easy when you're not trying to impress someone. And she found herself laughing at his stories about the ridiculous things people brought into his garage thinking they could be fixed with duct tape and prayer. I had a guy last month bring in a transmission held together with zip ties and actual chewing gum, Jake said, and Sophia nearly spit out her coffee. I'm sorry, chewing gum? Like the kind you chew? Jake nodded, completely serious. Big red cinnamon flavor. I could smell it from 10 feet away. He looked me dead in the eye and said his buddy told him it would work temporarily. Sophia was laughing so hard tears were forming. What did you tell him? Jake grinned. I told him his buddy was an idiot and sold him a rebuilt transmission at cost because I felt bad for him. Sophia leaned back in the booth, studying him. You do that a lot, don't you? Help people even when it costs you. Jake shrugged like it wasn't a big deal. My dad always said you can either be rich or you can sleep at night. And I'd rather sleep at night. Something in Sophia's chest did this weird twisting thing because she'd spent the last 2 years surrounded by people who'd sell their grandmother for a good quarterly return. And here was this guy who fixed transmissions at cost and stopped for strangers in snowstorms. "What about you?" Jake asked, flagging Harper down for more coffee refills. "What's it like running a fashion company?" Sophia felt her smile fade just a little. "Honestly? Right now it's like watching something you built with your bare hands slowly fall apart and not being able to stop it." Jake's expression shifted, genuine concern replacing the easy humor. "That bad?" Sophia found herself telling him everything. Stuff she hadn't even told Mia, about the investors breathing down her neck and the expansion deadline and the 200 people depending on her not to screw this up. "We need to expand by January 15th or they pull all funding," Sophia said, staring into her coffee cup like it held answers. "And the only location that works is this property on Market Street. But the timeline's so tight and I just keep thinking, what if I can't pull it off?" Jake reached across the table and squeezed her hand, and the contact was so unexpected and warm that Sophia looked up. "Hey, you're clearly brilliant and tough as hell. You'll figure it out." His confidence in her, this guy who'd known her for all of 3 hours, made her throat tight. Harper brought the check, and Jake grabbed it before Sophia could react, and when she protested, he just smiled. "You can get the next one." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Pretty confident there's gonna be a next one." Jake's smile got wider. "Well, yeah, I still owe you for the entertainment value of watching your face when you realized I was your date." They walked out into the parking lot where snow was coming down heavier now, covering everything in white, and Sophia's car looked like a frosted cake. "That alternator's not gonna last the night," Jake said, looking at her car with a mechanic's critical eye. "I can fix it properly tomorrow if you want. Shop's closed for Christmas, but I'll be there anyway doing paperwork." Sophia hesitated because accepting felt like crossing some line from blind date into something more real. "I don't want to ruin your Christmas." Jake laughed. "Trust me, my Christmas is going to be a 6-year-old waking me up at 5 a.m. to open presents and then watching Elf for the millionth time. Fixing your car would actually be a nice break." "Can I meet her?" The words came out before Sophia could stop them, and Jake's expression shifted to surprise. "Lily? You want to meet Lily?" Sophia felt her face heat up. "I mean, only if that's okay. You mentioned she likes fashion, and that's kind of my whole thing. But if it's too soon or weird, just forget I said anything." Jake was smiling at her in this soft way that made her stomach flip. "Tomorrow afternoon, say around 2. Fair warning, though. She's going to lose her mind when she finds out who you are." The next afternoon, Sophia stood outside a door above Morrison's garage, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual designer armor, holding a bag of art supplies she'd grabbed from an overpriced craft store, more nervous than she'd been for any investor meeting in her life. Jake opened the door, and his whole face lit up when he saw her, and then a tiny tornado in reindeer pajamas came flying past him, screaming at a pitch only dogs should be able to hear, "Daddy, there's a princess at the door." Lily's eyes were huge, her missing front tooth making her look even more adorable, and Sophia started laughing. "Not a princess, sweetheart. I'm Sophia." Lily's jaw literally dropped. "You're Sophia Loren from the magazine. Daddy, she's famous." She grabbed Sophia's hand and dragged her inside before anyone could say another word, and the apartment was small but warm and decorated for Christmas with obvious care. The kind of home that had love baked into every corner. Lily pulled out a shoebox overflowing with drawings, and Sophia sat on the floor in her designer jeans and went through each one, genuinely impressed because this kid had talent. Real talent. The kind of eye for proportion and flow that couldn't be taught. "These are incredible, Lily. Have you ever tried draping fabric?" Lily shook her head, confused, and Sophia grinned. "Watch this." She grabbed a bed sheet and showed Lily how to drape it over a chair to create different silhouettes. And within minutes, they were both on the floor, giggling and creating makeshift fashion designs. Jake watched from the kitchen doorway with hot chocolate mugs in his hands and his heart doing things it hadn't done since Sarah died. Because Sophia was sitting on his floor in $100 jeans, teaching his daughter about fashion design, and looking more relaxed and happy than she'd looked in any of the put-together photos he'd found when he Googled her last night. "You're good with her," he said, handing Sophia a mug covered in whipped cream. Sophia looked up at him and smiled. "She makes it easy." They spent the afternoon like that, the three of them, and it felt weirdly natural, like they'd been doing this forever. And when Lily climbed into Sophia's lap to show her a particularly complicated dress sketch, Sophia felt something in her chest crack open that she'd kept locked up tight for 2 years. "Are you Daddy's girlfriend?" Lily asked with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer, and Sophia choked on her hot chocolate while Jake turned bright red. "Lily, we just met. You can't just ask people that." Lily looked between them with a 6-year-old's brutal honesty. "But you like her. I can tell you smile different." Jake opened his mouth to deny it, but Sophia was laughing, and Lily kept going. "And Daddy needs someone nice because he's been sad since Mommy died, but he pretends he's not." The room went quiet and Jake's expression shuddered, and Sophia realized they'd just crashed into territory way deeper than a second date usually went. "I'm gonna go check your car," Jake said, his voice tight, and disappeared downstairs to the garage. Before Sophia could say anything, Lily looked worried. "Did I make Daddy sad?" Sophia pulled her close. "No, baby, you didn't. Your daddy just misses your mommy a lot." Lily nodded, like this made perfect sense. "Aunt Emma says that's why he needs someone new to love, so he can be happy again." And Sophia's heart just absolutely shattered, because this little girl understood way too much. Lily played with Sophia's bracelet, then said casually, "Daddy's worried about the garage." Sophia's attention sharpened. "Why's that, sweetheart?" Lily shrugged. "Some fancy people want to buy our building. Daddy said we might have to move." Sophia felt ice slide down her spine. "What building?" Lily pointed down. "This one. Morrison's garage. It's on Market Street, the little mall place with the pizza shop and the dry cleaners." Sophia's vision tunneled because she knew that property, knew it intimately, had the acquisition papers sitting on her desk with the address circled in red, and the building they wanted to demolish to put up her flagship store was the garage directly below her feet. The garage Jake owned. The business he'd built. The dream he'd promised his dying wife he'd keep alive. And she was the one about to destroy it. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, her business partner. "Board meeting moved to January 10th. Need final decision on Market Street property ASAP." Sophia stared at the message and felt sick because the universe had just handed her an impossible choice: save her company and destroy the man she was falling for, or save Jake and watch everything she'd built for 10 years crumble into nothing. And there was no world where she got to have both. Sophia made some excuse about a work emergency that sounded fake even to her own ears, and practically ran out of Jake's apartment like the building was on fire. And Lily's confused little face asking, "But we were having so much fun," was going to haunt her nightmares for weeks. She sat in her car with her hands shaking on the steering wheel, pulled out her phone, and texted Marcus 3 words that felt like signing a death warrant. "We can't buy it." Marcus called her immediately, his voice coming through the speakers so loud she had to turn down the volume. "What do you mean we can't buy it? That property is our only option. The investors love the location. The timeline works. Sophia, what the hell is going on?" She pressed her forehead against the steering wheel. "The owner is someone I know. We can't do this to him." The silence on the other end was so heavy she could feel it crushing her chest. "You're tanking our company for a guy you've known for, what, 48 hours? He's a single father, Marcus. That garage is his whole livelihood, his late wife's dream. I can't just bulldoze it." Marcus's voice went cold in that way it did when he was about to say something she didn't want to hear. "And what about the 200 people who work for us? What about their livelihoods? You gonna look them in the eye and tell them they're unemployed because you caught feelings for some mechanic?" Sophia didn't have an answer for that because he was right, and she hated it. Hung up the phone and drove home through snow that was coming down so hard she could barely see the road. 3 days went by, and Jake's texts kept coming, getting more worried each time. "Hey, haven't heard from you. Everything okay?" Then Lily keeps asking when you're coming back. "No pressure, just wanted you to know you're welcome here." Then finally, "If I did something wrong, I'm sorry. Would really like to see you again." Each message felt like a knife twisting, because she wanted to answer so badly it physically hurt. But what was she supposed to say? Sorry I ghosted you. My company wants to destroy your business, and I'm choosing my career over you. On day 4, Emma showed up at Sophia's office unannounced, and the receptionist looked terrified trying to stop her, but Emma just walked right past like she owned the place. I'm Jake's sister, and we need to talk. Sophia stood up from her desk, professional mask sliding into place. I'm really busy right now. Emma put a folded piece of paper on the desk. Lily wanted me to give you this, and then I'm leaving. But you should know that Jake hasn't smiled once since Christmas Eve, and that little girl thinks she did something to scare you away. Sophia unfolded the drawing with hands that wouldn't stop shaking, and it showed 3 people holding hands under a Christmas tree, labeled in crayon with Daddy, me, and Sophia, and underneath in Lily's wobbly handwriting, my Christmas wish, please don't leave us. Sophia's vision blurred, and she had to sit down because her legs just gave out, and Emma's voice got softer. I don't know what happened, but Jake hasn't been this happy in 4 years, and Lily thinks you hung the moon. Just think about that. After Emma left, Sophia sat there staring at the drawing and the property acquisition papers side by side on her desk, and something clicked in her brain like puzzle pieces, finally fitting together. She grabbed her phone and called Marcus. What if we don't demolish the garage? Marcus sounded like she'd suggested they start selling products on the moon. What are you talking about? Sophia was already pulling up building plans on her computer. What if we build around it? Mixed-use development, keep Morrison's garage on the ground floor, put our flagship store on the upper levels. The silence on Marcus's end was different this time, thoughtful instead of angry. That's actually kind of brilliant. Blue-collar meets high fashion. It's unique. Investors might eat that up. Sophia felt hope flicker in her chest for the first time in days. And we partner with him, his garage services, our customers. Everyone wins. Marcus was already typing. She could hear the keyboard clicking. Let me run the numbers. If this works, Sophia, I'm giving you a raise, and also admitting you were right, which I hate doing. 2 days later, Sophia walked into Evergreen Cafe, and her heart nearly stopped because Jake was there with Lily having hot chocolate. And the second Lily spotted her, the kid launched herself across the cafe screaming Sophia's name. Sophia caught her and held on tight while Lily whispered, I knew you'd come back. And Jake stood up looking guarded in a way that made Sophia want to cry because she'd done that. She'd made him put those walls back up. Can we talk? Sophia asked, and Jake nodded, told Lily to go sit with Harper for a minute, and they slid into the same booth where they'd had their first date that felt like a lifetime ago. Sophia pulled out a folder with shaking hands. I owe you an explanation and an apology. Jake's jaw was tight. Okay. Sophia took a breath. My company wanted to buy your property, the garage. We were going to demolish it for a flagship store, and I didn't know it was yours until Lily mentioned the address. She watched Jake's face go through about 17 emotions in 3 seconds, ending on something that looked like betrayal mixed with resignation. So you just disappeared? His voice was flat, and it hurt worse than if he'd yelled, I was trying to figure out how to save my company without destroying yours. Sophia slid the folder across the table. Partnership proposal. We build around your garage, mixed-use development. You stay on ground floor. We expand above, 50-50 partners on the whole property. Jake opened the folder like it might explode, read through the proposal with his mechanic's hands that she'd watched fix her car, leaving smudges on the expensive paper. You did this for me. Sophia shook her head. I did this for us. All 3 of us. You keep the garage, honor Sarah's memory, I save my company, and Lily gets what she wished for. Jake looked up and his eyes were wet. You're serious about this? Sophia reached across the table and took his hand. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. 1 year later, they were back in the same booth at Evergreen Cafe on Christmas night, and the mixed-use building was finished and gorgeous. Morrison's garage on the ground floor with the Laurent and Company flagship store gleaming above it, and they'd been featured in 3 business magazines as the most innovative partnership of the year. Lily was 7 now and bouncing in her seat. This is where you guys met. Well, the second time. The first time was when Mommy Sophia's car was broken. Jake corrected her gently. Just Sophia, baby, remember? But Lily shook her head stubbornly. She said I could call her Mommy Sophia if I wanted because she's going to marry you. Jake nearly choked on his coffee and looked at Sophia, who was trying not to laugh. Did you now? Sophia shrugged innocently. I may have mentioned that was a possibility. Harper brought over dessert with a candle in it. For my favorite family on the house. Jake pulled a small box out of his pocket and Lily squealed because she already knew what was happening. They'd practiced this morning. Sophia Laurent, you saved my garage, saved my heart, and became the family Lily wished for on Christmas Eve. Will you marry us? Sophia was crying before he even finished, nodding so hard she probably looked ridiculous. Yes, 1,000 times yes. The whole cafe erupted in applause because Harper had definitely told every regular this was happening, and Lily threw her arms around both of them. Now I get a mommy for every Christmas forever. 6 months later, they stood in that same cafe for their wedding reception, small and perfect with just family and friends, and Lily was the flower girl in a dress she'd designed herself with Sophia's help. Jake pulled Sophia close for their first dance, while Lily took approximately 8 million pictures on a disposable camera. You know what's crazy? Jake whispered against her hair. What? Sophia asked. If your car hadn't broken down, if I hadn't stopped, if we'd both just bailed on that blind date like we wanted to, none of this happens. Sophia looked up at him and smiled. Guess we should send a thank you card to that alternator. They laughed and kept dancing while snow started falling outside the cafe windows, and Lily pressed her face against the glass, watching the flakes come down. Mommy Sophia, Daddy, it's snowing just like the night you met. And Harper brought over champagne for the adults and sparkling cider for Lily, raised her glass and said what everyone was thinking. To broken down cars, blind dates you don't want to go on, and Christmas miracles that prove love finds you exactly when you stop looking for it. Sometimes the worst nights turn into the best stories. Sometimes a broken alternator is exactly what you need to find the person you're meant to spend your life with. And sometimes family finds you in the form of a mechanic who stops in a snowstorm and a little girl who wishes on Christmas magic. If this story reminded you that love shows up in unexpected ways, that partnership means lifting each other up, and that happy endings are real if you're brave enough to fight for them, hit that subscribe button. Merry Christmas, and thank you for being here with us.